What do you do when a legend gets benched and claps back without saying a word? Sheryl Swoopes just pulled the pettiest power move in women's basketball, wearing a Paige Buecher's shirt on a podcast, right after being fired. But make no mistake, that wasn't fashion. It was a silent missile aimed directly at Caitlin Clark.
Sheryl Swoopes just she can't stop. She can't not try to light a fire involving Caitlin Clark. She can't just be good. Well,
Sheryl Swoopes didn't just
again.
walk into Gilbert Arenas' podcast. She stormed in, silently, with a message stitched across her chest louder than any mic could capture. A Paige Buecher's t-shirt? Right after getting fired? That wasn't fashion, it was strategy. The moment she sat down in that chair, the cameras caught not just a disgruntled legend, but a calculated sniper taking a shot without firing a word. That shirt wasn't about Buecher's, it was about Clark. It was a billboard-sized middle finger to the face of women's basketball's new era. And for Swoopes, who once stood on that mountaintop alone, it was the clearest sign yet. She's not letting go of her crown without a fight. In the most passive-aggressive act since Tanya Harding, Swoopes made her stance known, not with grace, but with a grudge. This wasn't a podcast guest. This was a former queen waging psychological warfare in broad daylight.
Let me blow the shirt up first. Right here. There we go. Look at her. She just stays mad. Hey, what are you doing? Look at this. Just stays mad. Were y'all talking about Caitlin Clark at this very moment?
Don't let the silence fool you. Swoopes has been playing this game a long time, and she's playing it now with venom behind the smile. She's had her eye on Caitlin Clark from the jump. Not as a fan, as a threat. From college records to national headlines, every time Clark climbed higher, Swoopes pulled out the red pin, circling flaws, discrediting milestones, raising eyebrows instead of applauding. Even as the world watched Clark make history, Swoopes made it personal. She wasn't critiquing the game, she was guarding her legacy. And the deeper Clark etched her name into the record books, the more Swoopes seemed to question how deep those records really cut. It's not commentary, it's rivalry. And one of them doesn't even know she's in it.
At this point, considering the lengths Sheryl Swoopes has gone to deceive the truth, it feels like she just flat out despises Caitlin Clark, Clark's game, or is woefully misinformed.
The moment Swoopes lost her official title, she picked up a symbolic dagger and plunged it right where it would sting the most. She could have gone quiet. She could have taken the high road. But no, she chose allegiance, and not to the woman changing the game in real time. Not to the phenomenon packing arenas and setting ratings on fire. She aligned herself with Clark's biggest rival, and in doing so, drew the battle lines in the sand. What we're watching isn't just a generational shift, it's a full-blown power struggle. Caitlin Clark didn't just elevate the game, she flipped it. And while fans, brands, and networks celebrate the rise, the old guard looks on with clenched jaws. Swoopes, once the untouchable icon, now clings to a throne being rewritten by a player she refuses to acknowledge. This isn't resistance, it's desperation disguised as principle.
This isn't just for Caitlin, but you asked me about Caitlin. If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that player set.
Caitlin Clark isn't a product of hype, she's a byproduct of dominance. She didn't need a PR machine. She didn't need controversy. She didn't come to the game with slogans. She came with a silencer on her jump shot and X-ray vision in her passing game. Every time she crosses half court, fans hold their breath because something ridiculous is about to happen. Logo range threes? Routine? Behind the back dimes? Standard. What she's doing is not just elite. It's redefining what elite looks like. And here's the part that rattles cages. She's bringing in fans who've never cared about women's basketball in their lives. Not because she asked them to, but because she forced them to. Through raw, unfiltered talent. She doesn't chase storylines, she becomes them. And that's the real threat. She's not playing the media game. She's too busy dominating the one that matters.
The role of someone who is attempting to tear down greatness, marginalize greatness, even if it comes at the expense of your own legacy, just because you don't want to admit that you were wrong.
What makes this t-shirt moment so striking isn't just the fabric choice, it's the underlying message woven into it. Sheryl Swoopes had every opportunity to wear something neutral, something supportive of the WNBA, or even her own brand. Yet she went with Paige Buchers, a player long held up as the natural foil to Caitlin Clark. That wasn't a coincidence. That was strategy. Without saying a single word, Swoopes sent a clear signal. She's not on board with the Clark era. In fact, she's resisting it. Much like a seasoned chess master surrendering a pawn not in defeat, but to provoke a reaction or seize control elsewhere. Swoopes used apparel as a weapon, a silent protest disguised as personal expression. But here's the hard truth. This move, subtle as it was, exposed something deeper. It showed us that Swoopes is no longer just critiquing Clark, she's undermining her. Deliberately. Systematically. Because to take this public stance, to make this fashion decision so publicly and pointedly, is to lean fully into a rivalry that Clark never asked for. What we're witnessing isn't generational difference, it's generational resistance. A refusal to acknowledge that greatness doesn't always wait its turn. Why would a Hall of Famer feel so unsettled by a first-year player? Maybe because Caitlin Clark refuses to play by the unwritten rules that governed so many before her. While others have carefully curated their image to fit the mold, speaking carefully, towing political lines, prioritizing media optics, Clark has done the opposite. She's focused purely on the game. No theatrics, no distractions, no self-promotional agenda. Just elite basketball. And for some in the old guard, that's frustrating. Because they believe you should pay your dues, follow the chain of command, and earn the spotlight gradually. But Clark shattered that entire process. She walked in and became the face of a league almost overnight. And that's the real issue here. There's a group of veterans who believe it's their right to determine who rises next, who gets to carry the torch, who earns the spotlight. And Clark? She didn't wait for approval. She took the stage. She brought millions of new fans, captured headlines, and ignited a level of excitement around women's basketball that even the league couldn't have scripted. She broke viewership records. She made the playoffs. She won Rookie of the Year. And still, it wasn't enough for some. Still, there's a chorus asking, what else should she be doing? It's a fair question. What more can you demand of someone who's done everything you could possibly ask? Clark has stayed out of drama, avoided off-court controversy, and responded with poise even when thrust into conversations around race, gender, and legacy. Topics she didn't seek out, but handled with maturity. She elevated her team. She elevated the game. And yet, the goalposts keep moving. Swoopes, instead of celebrating this moment and using her voice to unite different eras of the sport, chose instead to divide. She could have acted as a bridge between generations, a leader who champions both the past and the future. But instead, she chose the path of continued resentment. And now that one-sided feud is making her look smaller, not stronger. It's not Caitlin Clark who looks insecure here, it's Sheryl Swoopes. At some point, constant criticism begins to sound less like analysis and more like animosity. And fans noticed. So did the networks. And when ESPN and WNBA producers, companies that thrive on debate and controversy, begin muting someone's voice, that speaks volumes. Swoopes wasn't just removed from a podcast recently. She was also quietly pulled off key commentary teams, including during games involving Clark. That's not normal. Networks usually embrace strong opinions. But in this case, Swoopes' comments weren't viewed as sharp insight. They were seen as toxic, as biased, as personal. This didn't come out of nowhere. The tension has been brewing since Clark's Iowa days. Swoopes was among the first to publicly question whether Caitlin deserved the attention she was receiving, even before she entered the WNBA. And once Clark did enter the league, the criticisms only escalated. Not framed as helpful or nuanced critiques, but as subtle attempts to chip away at her credibility. And then came the post-debut spin. I never said she wouldn't be good, Swoopes later claimed. I just said I didn't think Caitlin or Angel would dominate immediately. Let's stop right there. Because if Caitlin Clark leading the league in assists, scoring nearly 20 points a game, and transforming a struggling franchise in her first season doesn't qualify as dominating, then the word has lost all meaning. We're now arguing semantics in order to avoid saying the obvious. She's been phenomenal. You don't have to love her style, or her rise, or her media presence, but you have to respect the numbers. And Swoopes didn't. Even more telling is how this hostility became so visible that it cost Swoopes jobs. When production teams start minimizing your role during broadcasts, it means the bias isn't just perceived, it's measurable. When you get pulled off branded podcasts, replaced during key games, quietly phased out from official coverage, It's because those in power see your commentary as more destructive than valuable. And that's the real tragedy. Not for Clark, but for Swoopes. Because her own legacy is now being clouded by her refusal to uplift the next generation. Then came the tipping point. Stephen A. Smith, of all people, stepped in. The man known for going too far, for pushing the envelope, for stirring the pot. He decided it was time to speak up and call out Swoopes directly. If Stephen A. is telling you to dial it back, then you've clearly crossed a line. And he's right. This isn't constructive. This isn't debate. This is obsession. A vendetta that's becoming more obvious by the day. And through it all, Clark just keeps playing. She's not engaging in social media feuds. She's not taking shots in return. She's putting her head down and producing. Game after game. Stat after stat. While others try to drag her name through the mud, she's letting her work speak louder than any t-shirt ever could. Because when your greatness speaks for itself, your silence becomes your sharpest weapon. It's not just a feud anymore, it's a saga. A generational collision unfolding in real time. At first, it was subtle, buried beneath smiles and sound bites. But now, the vendetta has become impossible to ignore. No one told Sheryl Swoopes she had to praise Caitlin Clark. No one demanded she clap, cheer, or offer hollow compliments. But when the Indiana Fever are being heralded as the most watched, most talked about, most hyped team in the WNBA, how do you say Indiana Fever without even uttering Caitlin Clark's name? That's not oversight. That's deliberate. And that's when the mask slipped. Rather than confront the elephant in the room with grace, Swoopes took the low road. She fired back, not with analysis, not with insight, but with pettiness wrapped in passive aggression. And look, I'm not here to tear down a legend. Sheryl Swoopes is a Hall of Famer, a trailblazer, a titan of the women's game. But even giants can act small. And in this moment, she shrank herself. Her response wasn't just immature, it reeked of personal vendetta. See, this isn't new. From the beginning of Clark's rise at Iowa, Swoopes made it her mission to undercut her. She pushed a narrative that Clark wasn't skilled, just smoke and mirrors, a product of media hype, a blonde-haired darling of ESPN. But here's the twist. Every time Swoopes criticized her, she made Clark bigger. Her name trended more. Her game got dissected more. And paradoxically, Swoopes helped fuel the very spotlight she resented. The irony? It's almost poetic. Because the harsh truth is this. Sheryl Swoopes hasn't been in the headlines like this for years. And now, by leaning into criticism and controversy, she's become part of the conversation again. Whether intentional or not, it feels like a PR strategy, an old legend clinging to relevance by antagonizing the new face of the league. But dig deeper, and the insecurity becomes more apparent. Clark's rookie season is rewriting expectations fast. We're talking record-breaking numbers, the most points by a rookie guard, unheard of double-doubles, television ratings that rival NBA games. And that shakes the foundation for those who once defined greatness. It forces a question no legend wants to face. Am I still the standard, or has the standard changed? Swoopes knows exactly what she's doing. She knows there's a segment of the WNBA fan base, especially the online crowd, that thrives off anti-Clark sentiment, that will rally behind anyone who dares to challenge her rising stardom. So she feeds them, plays into it. It's not about analysis anymore, it's theater. A performance of resistance against the inevitable. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because when Clark breaks another record, you can hear the strain in Swoopes' voice. It's like watching someone witness their own legacy being eclipsed in slow motion. And that's hard for anyone, especially when they once were the moment. Let's not forget, in Swoopes' MVP season, she averaged fewer points, assists, and rebounds than Caitlin Clark is averaging right now in her rookie campaign. The numbers don't lie. Clark's production is elite, and the comparison isn't close, which makes the intensity of the critique all the more glaring. This isn't healthy skepticism anymore. When you're getting benched on air because your takes are too hot for TV, when your commentary isn't about basketball but about whether someone deserves to be famous, you're not analyzing the game. You're trying to control the narrative. And that's what this is really about. Clark is changing the rules. She's not waiting for veteran approval. She's not following the unspoken etiquette of rookies tiptoeing into greatness. She's barging through the front door, selling out arenas, putting butts in seats, and making history on her own terms. Caitlin Clark is box office. So when Sheryl Swoopes sat down for an interview and wore a Paige Bucher's shirt, a known college rival of Clark's, it wasn't just an outfit. It was a message. It was a shot fired without speaking a word. Think about it. Why would a Hall of Fame legend deliberately wear that shirt on that day in that interview? The answer couldn't be more obvious. She was making a declaration. I support that white player, not this one. It was political, it was pointed, and it was impossible to ignore. Because Paige Bueckers isn't just another elite player, she represents a different brand of marketability. She's vocal on social justice, politically engaged, and speaks the language of the establishment. The safe bet. The kind of player certain WNBA power circles are eager to uplift. Meanwhile, Clark, while respectful, focuses on hoops and lets her game do the talking. And that independence? It unsettles people. Swoopes' wardrobe choice was the fashion equivalent of planting a flag in hostile territory. And the timing says everything. The moment Clark began dominating the headlines, that's when Swoopes chose to make her preference visible. Funny, isn't it? For someone who claims she's not thinking about Caitlin Clark, she sure can't stop sending signals. She lives in CC's world rent-free, and that fan base? They built a mansion in her head. So let's stop pretending this is just basketball commentary. It's personal. It's political. It's legacy versus revolution. The old guard can't stop what's coming, but they sure as hell can try to delay the crowning. While Paige Bueckers steps into the spotlight with social advocacy and polished soundbites, Caitlin Clark represents something radically different, a break from the mold, a rogue force cutting through the noise with nothing but pure, unapologetic basketball brilliance. Clark doesn't politicize her platform. She doesn't drift into cultural debates or plant herself at the center of activism. When reporters pivot to social issues in her post-game interviews, she calmly, deliberately redirects the conversation back to zone defenses, ball movement, and shooting percentages. Her mind is on basketball entirely. That laser focus? That refusal to be anything but a hooper? It terrifies gatekeepers like Sheryl Swoopes. Because Clark isn't following the script. She doesn't need approval from the old guard, doesn't campaign for their endorsements, and doesn't play the media's game. And when someone doesn't need your validation, you can't control them. That independence? That autonomy? It's a direct threat to the influence certain figures have long held over the league's narrative. That's why the establishment seems strangely comfortable with Bueckers. They wrap their arms around her. They see a player they can shape. She says the right things, supports the right causes, and hits the checkboxes that make her palatable to power brokers and women's sports. See, they seem to say, we're not biased. We love this white player. Just not that white player. Not the one from Iowa. Not the one who won't play ball our way. It's transparent. This isn't just preference. This is about control. And when control slips, people panic. What's happening now is a deliberate attempt to construct a rivalry that doesn't need to exist. These are two exceptional athletes, both worthy of admiration. But instead of lifting them both, Swoopes and others have chosen to divide, to anoint one while undermining the other. It's as if they can't allow Clark's stardom to stand on its own, so they fabricate a contrast: Bueckers, the activist; Clark, the anomaly. And make no mistake, Clark is the anomaly. Her game defies convention. She does things that don't compute. She pulls up from the logo like it's a free throw. She drops dimes that belong in highlight reels. Paige Bueckers is a fantastic player. But Clark? She's not just playing the game, she's redefining it. Bueckers fits the archetype the veterans are comfortable with. She's gifted, humble, articulate, and committed to off-court causes. That's the role Swoopes believes rookies should play, a voice for more than just the sport. But Clark has flipped that script. She lets her crossover, her range, and her swagger do the talking. And the fans? They eat it up. There's an electricity to Clark's game. A kinetic, Steph Curry-level energy. Is it just the shooting? Is it the attitude? The poise? It's hard to say. What's undeniable is that thing. The intangible that separates stars from legends. The hit factor. And Clark's got it in spades. That's what drives Swoopes mad. She can't narrate Clark's rise. She can't shape the perception. Because Clark is scripting her own legend with every no-look pass and deep three. She doesn't need a PR campaign. Her dominance is the message. And when people can't control the message, their next move is often to discredit it. And that's exactly what's happening. The most frustrating part? Bueckers never asked to be used like this. She's a tremendous talent in her own right, and she deserves to shine for who she is, not as a prop in someone else's bitter campaign against Caitlin Clark. Basketball fans aren't stupid. They've watched the subtle digs become louder. They've recognized the pattern, the shade, the omissions, the side-eyed remarks. The moment Swoopes walked into an interview about Clark and wore a Paige Buecher's shirt, fans knew exactly what was going on. That wasn't fashion. That was a statement. But Clark's fanbase? They weren't fooled. They've seen the playbook, and they're not having it. This isn't criticism anymore. It's hate ration. Sheryl Swoopes is serving up the Haterade like she's tailgating a football game. And when you peel back all the narratives, the jealousy, the politics, what's left is one undeniable truth. Caitlin Clark is rewriting the league. Look at the numbers. Look at the impact. Her rookie season has forced the WNBA to reconsider what's possible. She's breaking records veterans never came close to. She's selling out arenas, boosting TV ratings, and shifting the financial ecosystem of women's basketball. Yes, the league was growing before Clark. That's true. But the pace? The reach? The scale? That's Caitlin. Her gravitational pull is undeniable. She's bringing in fans who never watched a WNBA game. Kids are falling in love with the sport because of her. Adults are planning their evenings around fever tip-off times. She isn't just a player, she's a movement. And that's where the resentment really lies. Some of these legends look at what Clark has accomplished in one season, and they see it as disrespectful. They feel overlooked. They feel like the attention she's receiving is a spotlight that never reached them. But here's the truth. She earned it. Through talent, work, charisma, and vision. She's not just taking part in the WNBA, she's transforming it. And you know what? She should be getting this attention. She's a generational baller. She has the Steph Curry effect. Steph doesn't dunk. He doesn't block shots into the stands. He's not the most athletic guy on the court. But he redefined basketball by mastering his skill, and Clark is doing the same. This is real impact. This is what legacy looks like when it's being built in real time. This is Caitlin Clark. Thanks for watching.